Hi everyone, Rachel here, the Modern Shaman. I'm glad you're with me. I wanted to introduce a little bit about myself for those of you guys that are new. I am a shaman and psychic and have been working in this metaphysical realm for many, many years. I have worked in psychic think tanks for the government, missing person work, homicide work, shamanic land healings, sacred ceremony rites and rituals, as well as individual sessions with mediumship, future probabilities, past life visions, you name it, I've probably done it. And now I do one-on-one sessions here in my office in San Antonio, Texas, as well as online. And I have a sacred intuitive arts curriculum that I developed. I have a master's degree in education, and I put that to use to create a curriculum for those of you guys that are wanting to develop your sacred gifts of intuition in terms of medical intuition, shamanic intuition, and the elementals with healing and clearings, and really all of our ancient modalities of energetic awareness. That curriculum is online. I also have a spiritual entrepreneurship curriculum that I developed for those of you guys that want to take your gifts and offer that and create a business for yourself and your family. So if any of that interests you, from booking sessions to studying more formally with me, I kind of guide everyone to my website, which is themodernshaman.net. I'd love for you to connect with me there. I also have an events page, and I've been highlighting that a lot this summer. We have a solstice event coming up for the summer solstice on the 21st, and it is going to be a powerful time of alignment and bringing in and ushering in the longest day of the year. And we're going to have a sound bath, and a friend who is a practitioner is going to be doing gongs, and I will be doing shamanic healing and alignment with the drums. So it will be a powerful time. If you'd like to connect with us or register for that event, it's also on my website, themodernshaman.net. Okay, let's get on to the question that you guys sent in for today. And if you want to send in questions, you do that through the website also. You can just fill out the contact form and specify that it's a question for my YouTube channel, and I'll answer it. All right, here is the question. Oh, that's not the paper. It's this paper. Okay, here's the question for today. It says, hi, oh my gosh, I love your channel. I just found you and I've been binge watching. You are so genuine and knowledgeable. My question is about soulmates. Can we have negative soulmates, like a shadow twin soul kind of thing, that are negative relationship catalysts? Yeah? Can I just say yeah? I'm sure you want me to elaborate on that. That's a great question, creative question. I believe back in my archives, if you're new to the channel, I have videos on soulmates and twin souls because people used to, at least a couple of years ago, when the twin flame thing came up a lot, and that was like a big label and term used in the spiritual community. A lot of people ask questions about that. So there are previous videos talking about it, but yes, I would love to answer your question a little more directly and elaborate on my yes. So your question, can we have negative soulmates? Kind of like a shadow twin soul. I think everyone who is hearing you ask that question right now can say, yeah, I've had people that have been like that, negative catalysts for relational growth. Let's just remember, when I answer this question, that from Spirit's perspective, and if you have been engaging in communication with the non-physical realm or those that are outside of living on this earth, right? Your higher guidance, your ascended masters, your angels, you will know that they do not perceive suffering or good and bad or negative and positive the same way we do, because this earth is dualistic. But outside of this earth, it doesn't exist like that. Things do not have that same dualistic perspective. Earth is a teaching ground through dualism, through this learning of good and evil, white and black, positive and negative experiences. This is the element of our growth. But when you are non-physical and outside of this learning experience on Earth and this identity as a human species, it is outside of that. And lessons are just lessons. They're not good lessons or bad lessons or, working towards this side or that side. It is the whole, the oneness of essence and being. And so it's not split like that. So I will say that your soulmates, and the definition of that is essentially a deep relational contract with another soul for your spiritual evolution and growth. And this can come through so many different labels or titles that we have in our culture. So this may be a husband or wife, partner. This may be a child. This may be a parent of yours. This may be a friend of yours. This may be an animal of yours. These soul relationships are ones that are typically very, very pivotal in our emotional and spiritual growth. So that's kind of my definition for a soulmate. Now, whether you deem that as a positive soulmate or a negative soulmate, it doesn't really matter from Spirit's perspective. That only matters in our human kind of relational trying to understand, our own mind, trying to process this, and in a bit putting judgment on that relationship, right? Like it taught me through the negative lessons. But from Spirit's perspective, like I said earlier, lessons are lessons. And the deeper the growth, the more beneficial that relational catalyst is in our life. So oftentimes, at least I can speak from my perspective, the most growth that we experience is from those painful, those suffering type of relationships, because it really causes us to self-assess. And I think also if you come into this life with a more positive energetic charge, leaning more towards the positive things, right? Then you tend to learn a lot from the negative charge or the negative polarization of life, trying to kind of bring that into balance, right? So if we have the positive charge and we're mostly up here and positive person and positive vibes and we're doing good and we're all about compassion and empathy and goodness and just bringing that out in people and being that for ourselves, oftentimes we don't need to learn that lesson. Like we're good in that. We've got it. So then the lessons come from the negative charges on this earth. Lessons through, setting boundaries, saying no. That can be a simple one, but deeper betrayal, trust issues, learning kind of that not all things are good. So you get me? So we kind of learn on this side because we already embody these aspects. So we're kind of learning through this trudging through the negative charge. If we come in very negatively charged, kind of this Eeyore, if you can relate to that Winnie the Pooh reference, right? Where he's kind of like negative Nilly all the time, just views the negative side of things, kind of a pessimistic energy. Things have been hard. We tend to learn through positive energy. Like we learn the most, right? Because we already know this. We already know, oh, the world is hard, life is hard, So we learn through this element of people showing us that there is good in the world, learning how to shift our energy. And it's almost like harder to do that for us because we are so negatively charged and polarized. So the relationship patterns, either way, that soulmate energy gives us that commitment to growth, because typically these are long-term relationships, not always, but they are they stay with us for the long haul. Now, that doesn't mean that you marry them and you stay in a married relationship with them your whole life. No, oftentimes these relationships are someone that you commit to, maybe you do marry them, but then you split. You get divorced, but you have children together. So there's a lifelong kind of chain of soul connection, or your soul, maybe they are an ex from a long time ago, but they changed and altered your life so much so that that relationship chain stays with you forever. Maybe they gave you an STD that's with you for the rest of your life. Okay, I've seen that one. Maybe they, like I said earlier, they had patterns that will, in some way, shape, or form, be with you forever. Maybe it's they got you into an addiction or introduced you to that world, and then that became something you had to work through all your life. So do you see what I mean from like long-term relationship? It doesn't mean like I'm in a committed relationship. Don't look at it through a cultural perspective. Look at it from a soul perspective. Something that stays in your soul and works towards your evolutionary growth throughout your lifetime. Those aspects of growth may look different at different times in your life. I know this was a big revelation for me when my first marriage, when I was married, and I was just like fully committed. I never ever in my mind thought I would ever get divorced, but he worked through aspects of addiction, and I worked very hard to help him. I was like the constant helper, trying to help him overcome and help him be a better person, all this, right? The help meet, and devote myself to him in that way. And then I was shocked eventually when I felt like every time I prayed, Spirit was like, you need to divorce him, you need to divorce him. When I did divorce him, it wasn't until years later that he stayed with his sobriety, that he was able to get sober. And that was a huge pivotal moment for me, like a revelation for me, because I realized like that soulmate relationship only helped him when I shifted out of that cultural dynamic of living together, of taking care of him in a household dynamic, of taking care of his emotional body, taking care of his spiritual body. When I released him of that, then he was able to evolve beyond what I was doing constantly for him. And so his growth came from us not being together. Even though my prayer was in total sincerity that he be able to beat this addiction, he could only do that without me being with him. You see, so that's just an example of like relationships that are on a soul growth dynamic and a soulmate type of commitment. And that always baffled me from a spiritual perspective when I was younger, because I would have lots of visions of us in past lives together. I would do work in between lives, in the realm in between our lives, and I would see us kind of partnered up together. And I'm like, that's so weird because we're not partnered up together in this life. But Spirit said, the soul contract is one beyond culture. So that's beyond what humans call a relationship or not a relationship, right? Or a husband or a wife or a child. And oftentimes men learn these soulmate relationships through their children, through catalytic relationships that truly change them. And I'm not saying that women can't change them. I think they can. But I think there is a level of devotion and love and giving where a man's heart becomes incredibly vulnerable for children. And so I see a lot of these relationships with clients, with men, with their children. And So yes, the answer would be yes, you can have a negative soulmate, but from Spirit's perspective, it's never negative. A lesson is a lesson, and a soulmate is a soulmate, because the contract is beyond our dualistic understanding of good and evil, or good and bad. And if we are learning, that's the main thing. I would ask yourself, what am I learning here? My brother used to ask me that all the time. Every time I would see him, he was on such a deep spiritual plane of existence that, like, he was just way beyond my years of wisdom. And in his latter years of his life, he would sit down and he would say, how are you doing? You know, just kind of a check-in, or like, just, hey, what's going on? You know, when he would first come in. And then he would like look me dead in the eyes and say, what are you learning right now? And when we are in our fast-paced, chaotic world of to-dos and humanness, that question kind of bounces off of us, or is hard to process. And it's only when we are deep in a spiritual evolutionary path of self-reflection and growth can we truly answer that. So that would be my question to you. What am I learning here? I hope this video blesses you. If so, come back next week and we'll have another question and answer time. Blessings.